Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with another knife overview. Today I'm kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, or at least like my wheelhouse a little bit, and then I'm going to be reviewing a knife that I never would have reviewed. So full disclosure, actually got kind of hooked up with a guy in one of the groups that I belong to on Facebook that is making this knife right here, and it was completely non-attributional. Like I definitely didn't have to like kiss any asses or anything like that. It was more of like, hey, I'm gonna send you these knives and let me know what you think of them. And I was like, challenge accepted. So definitely appreciate this guy John for sending me these knives. I've definitely spent some time with them and got to know kind of what they're all about, but this is not, a typical knife that I would review or use, but I've definitely kind of, I don't know, based on the last couple weeks of me like testing these out and kind of playing with them, I definitely have an appreciation, and we're gonna get into that. So, these knives, so they're called the Atlas Industries APK, or the Atlas penknife. This is the box that that they come in, so it's kind of like a little lipstick box there. They feature a 3.54-inch blade. Closed, you're looking at 4 inches. They have a 7.95-inch OAL. The steel on these is 8CR13 MOV, so it's kind of similar to that AUS 8 steel. So again, kind of a cheaper, steel you'd see in some of the made in China blades, etc. The blade itself is going to be flat ground. The handles, so it has steel liners in it, but this the scales on it are going to be ABS, so essentially injected molded plastic. One of the really cool features of this, so it is a liner lock with a flipper tab. We'll get to that in a little bit. It is also running on bearings, which I thought was so funny to see on like a little penknife like this, running on bearings with a liner lock, flipper tab. I was just like, it's so funny to me. So it's also going to be, so the carry option, so it has a pocket clip on it. It is going to be right hand tip up only. This penknife weighs 1.5 ounces. It's absolutely insane. It's so funny. Like, you hear 1.5 ounces and you're like, oh, whatever. But when you hold this thing, it's just like, is there something in my hand? It's stupid light. Like, I'm just still, every time I pick it up, I'm still like, wow, this is crazy. The MSRP on this is $30 actually, so it's very, very affordable. I'll definitely link, like, they don't have a website yet, they're kind of just up and coming, but they do have an Instagram page and a Facebook page, so I will link it in the description below. All right, now let's jump into my observations of the Atlas Industries APK. Again, I can't stress enough, this is completely out of my wheelhouse. Like a knife like this, I never thought that I'd be looking at, reviewing, etc. But I decided to challenge myself tonight. So when I first saw these, it kind of reminded me of something you'd see kind of at the checkout counter at like 7-Eleven. Like, you're like, oh, like I can take these pills and it does whatever. And also, oh, there's a little like knife or whatever. But upon closer inspection, like, of this knife, and when I picked it up, got it in the mail, I was having a couple of laughs, and then I was like, wait, like, this is a flipper. It's running on bearings, which is really cool. It's a liner lock, so not a friction lock or anything like that. Like, it's a liner lock. The lockup is great. The blade centering is right on. It has Torx hardware on it. They definitely, you can tell whoever made this knife, even though maybe it's not the most traditional knife you've ever seen, like, people that love knives designed and made this knife. You have this pocket clip right here, which is actually countersunk, which I think is really cool. And then you have this barrel spacer in the back that shares the Torx bit with the clip, and then there's another one to kind of securely hold it into place. But that's pretty awesome. Like, the attention to detail on this for such a simple knife, like, I was, yeah, like, actually kind of really really impressed with it. You know, the lockup too. I mean, Lord knows, like, so I actually, and you know, I kind of wanted to get into it before I got into this review, but we're already past that. I have been approached to review kind of some knives that I've flat out said no, I'm not going to review them. Like, if I reviewed this knife for you, it would not help you out. Like, you know, whatever. So this is the first knife that I've actually been sent that I've been like, okay, like I'll take a stab at it because it actually is really cool. The other observation that I had right out the gate, which, you know, I didn't know how it would be, is both of the examples that were sent to me are just like sharp AF. Like, they are hair popping sharp. I literally sat with it. I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this knife is as sharp as it is. Like, honestly, like, you could fillet with this in a pinch. Like, if you were like, oh man, I went fishing, I forgot my fillet knife. If you had this in your kit or your tackle box, you're golden. And I think that that's really cool. Like, a lot of times we get these cheaper knives, like certainly some of the made in China, kind of just like really crappy whatever I'll receive, that I don't do reviews on, just because I'm like, you're not ready for this hate kind of thing. This one is really sharp, and I think it also, you know, it kind of resembled that like Quaken design. So I have a, let's see, a Boker Quaken right here, which again, this thing, oh, man, my wrist is gonna get sore from holding it after after this Atlas. But you know, it's kind of that Quaken-y design there, and I'm not a huge fan of Quaken designs, but if it, you know, fills a certain void or serves a purpose, like I can definitely get behind it. My next observation of the Atlas Industries APK is this thing actually, for what it is extremely fidgety. It has all like the quote unquote controls of a folder, but in a pen knife, right? So I mean, like, I really do love the liner lock design, this flipper tab. The fact that it's running on bearings is actually kind of comical to me, because it's like, you know, there's no way you'd ever have to have this running on bearings when you actually needed to use it. But the fact that they did that is kind of funny to me, and it's a very satisfying knife to work the action to. Like, the lockup, since, you know, you have these injected molded plastic handles, there's not much like pinging or metallic sounds or anything like that. Like, it's a very solid lockup, and it has all of the controls of a normal knife that I would, yeah, that I would carry. The other point that I wanted to bring to this, and you know, we're kind of getting to the end of my review here, my overview of it, but I think like this knife, what it brings to mind is the fact that, like, when you need a knife, the only substitute is gonna be a knife. So if you don't have a knife for whatever reason, like, you know, obviously, certainly carrying folders, you know, but larger knives writ large will be able to handle more, you know, be able to get kind of banged around more than this knife will. But at the end of the day, like, for $30 as well, like, if you need a knife, the only substitute is a knife. And you know, before I kind of wrap this up too, I want to do a couple comparisons. Like, you know, certainly threw it in front of that Quaken, but just out of, you know, sheer boredom, whatever, we'll throw it next to a Microtech SOCOM here. So this is the Microtech next to the Atlas Industries APK, and then also just finished a review of the Spyderco PM2, so that's what it looks like next to that. So, you know, definitely a very small knife, kind of fits in a niche kind of market. This is more of an emergency knife, I would say, rather than an everyday carry. But you know, I think like in what I had to do when I got this knife was like, where would we see this knife? Like, where would it be used for? I can totally see, and will be actually. So, you know, whether it's in your car, clipping one of these to the visor in your car, throw it in a first aid kit, clipping it on a life jacket, you know, it I don't know. Like, you want to have a blade in case things go south, and this is a great, reasonable, you know, U.S. designed knife from a knife enthusiast that I think kind of, yeah, it certainly fits the bill. The other thing that kind of came to mind for me was just kind of people that are going on like backpacking trips. Like, obviously, like, realizing that, you know, ounces lead to pounds lead to pain. This weighs 1.5 ounces, and although I can't suggest enough the fact of like bringing a solid folder with you wherever you go. If you kind of just like threw this in your bag at the last minute, you definitely won't feel it, but you have a 3.5 inch blade in there with a liner lock that's running on bearings that like this will get you out of a jam in a pinch. So I don't think this would be a knife for me as far as like everyday carry, like I'm going to do whatever, this is all I have in my pocket. But as a backup or kind of just like hedging your bets, this has been one of the better options that I've seen. So I definitely I appreciate the opportunity to review these knives. Certainly, like I think I'll throw one in my Jeep, then one in my home first aid kit. Definitely check this company out. Again, I will link their page to the description of the video. But I think if you're looking for kind of a backup knife and you don't want to throw a higher end knife in your go bag, etc., this is a great option. So definitely check them out. Appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll see you next time.